Senator Chris Coons, Democrat from Delaware. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. Good to be on with you.
It's great to have you. If this report essentially clears the president, and I use the word if, on the question of collusion with Russia, will you accept the findings?
Yes, I will. I've said all along the last 2 years that part of why I thought it was important that Robert Mueller be allowed to continue and complete his investigation unhindered was because of his stature as someone who was a lifelong federal law enforcement leader, a lifelong Republican, a decorated war hero, the second longest serving FBI director. I've said all along that whatever he reaches in terms of a conclusion, I will accept. And I think that's important for rule of law and transparency in the country. And at this point, we've got President Trump and Republican Chairman Lindsey Graham in the Senate and Democratic Chairman Jerry Nadler in the House saying the same thing. Let's release the full report. Let's let the Senate, the House, and then the people of the United States know what Mueller has concluded and proceed from there.
So, Senator, on that point of release the full report, what does releasing the full report mean in terms of the Justice Department having standards and laws about special counsel investigations and redacting information about allegations that did not come to fruition with evidence?
Well, there's three, I think, standard, widely accepted exceptions for releasing all of the investigatory materials and final report. First would be if it interferes with ongoing investigations. As we know, there are ongoing investigations. Roger Stone hasn't been brought to trial yet in the Southern District of New York, and in the state courts of New York, there's other investigations that don't relate to Robert Mueller's narrow charge, but that are ongoing. So information shouldn't be released that would interfere with them. In general, in criminal law, you can't release grand jury deliberations without a judicial order. And then last, of course, because this was centrally an investigation into Russian interference in our 2016 election, things that are classified might well be a part of this report. So there may have to be a classified annex sent to Congress just to make sure we're protecting national security secrets.
Senator, if collusion is not found in the report that is released, would you acknowledge that your party, the Democrats, have overreached in the way they've alluded to, suggested, even accused this president of cheating, of colluding with Russia? Did your party go too far?
Well, I tried to be careful in the last 2 years and make sure that in every reference I made, I talked about allegations, I talked about suspicions, and I think it's important that we not go too far in how we handle as a party investigations into the president going forward. There are unresolved matters. There's matters that may not have reached the level of a chargeable offense against individuals, but they're still worthy of oversight. And I frankly think one of the things that has made Washington difficult to work in the 8 or 9 years I've been there is the ways in which both parties have at times sort of beaten a particular point to death. I think there were 13 Benghazi hearings. I don't think we need 13 hearings into the Mueller report. I think we need to do a responsible job of oversight, see what the conclusions are, and move forward. The average American who's watching your show this morning probably isn't sitting there wondering exactly what's in the report. They're wondering how they're going to deal with getting a better job or health care costs or the opioid crisis or the sorts of things folks wish we in Congress would spend more of our time dealing with.
All important issues. You talk about the important issue of oversight, though, for any Congress.
Yep.
And that also involves not just the president, but top officials like James Comey, Andrew McCabe at the FBI, the Justice Department. I want to give you a fair chance to respond to Republican Congressman Devin Nunes. Take a listen, and then we'll get your response.
I think what you're seeing tonight is the unraveling of the biggest scandal in American history, the biggest political scandal in American history. I really believe what that is. People need to remember this actually likely dates back to late 2015, early 2016, and this began nothing more, nothing less than a Clinton-Obama operation with a bunch of dirty cops at the FBI and career Justice Department officials that were all part of it.
Senator, you may have some political disagreements with Congressman Nunes. I know there's been a lot of back and forth, but in fairness, there have not been a lot of people in your party taking a hard look at Comey and other Democrats taking a hard look at Comey and others at the FBI and the Justice Department in terms of the dossier and all of that. Should there be oversight of that now?
My recollection is that the Inspector General of the department has looked at allegations around, for example, Strzok and Page and the exchanges between them by text, and that there has been an appropriate consideration of whether or not there was improper motives at the FBI at the beginning of this investigation. Devin has a real talent for overstatement. I would say that in my lifetime, the Watergate scandal was the single biggest political scandal. But if there is a lack of confidence in the independence of federal law enforcement, that's something that deserves appropriate scrutiny. I think the Inspector General of the Department of Justice has conducted oversight of the allegations that were made there. And frankly, that's appropriate. I do think it's important that we not smear an entire federal agency of 110,000 dedicated law enforcement professionals based on a few allegations.
Senator, I would politely disagree with your characterization of Benghazi, 4 dead Americans, a cover-up. I think that, frankly, justifies a special counsel as much as what we just saw. Let me ask you one brief last question. One of your former colleagues, John Delaney, came on and described Bob Mueller as a patriot. I think you would probably agree with that. Do you believe that our president is a patriot?
You know, look, our president does things that are in the best interests of our country. Pursuing ISIS to the conclusion of the combat against the caliphate, for example, something that just happened this weekend, I think is deserving of a compliment.
Okay.
There are things I really strongly disagree with about his public statements and his conduct, but I don't think that's up for me to challenge his patriotism. He's our commander-in-chief, and I do my best to respect him.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator
in that
Coons.
role because he's been elected by the people of the United States.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator.
That.
All right, we got a lot more
Fox and
coming up.
Friends in just a minute.